Okay, welcome everyone. Thumbs up if you can see my screen, okay? My screen, okay? Okay. So welcome. This is UW Seattle MSW program in collaboration with CTAP, CTAP. So this is the CTAP info session for child welfare employees. This presentation will be recorded and we're going to send it out to those who could not attend today. The recording will stop before the question and answer portion of the session. If you do not want your voice recorded, we ask that you please stay on mute until the question and answer portion of the presentation. If you can also just put in your name and where you're joining us from tonight, and maybe an emoji to describe how you're currently feeling about the weather, the city, or anything. We will appreciate that. Okay, I can see some emojis coming in. From Vancouver, nice. Okay. Looks like everyone's feeling happy tonight. Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Thank you for engaging. I'm going to, 1 second. Just to make sure. Okay. So before we start, I'm going to read out the land acknowledgement. Please bear with me as I read out. You can also follow through on the screen. So the University of Washington and all of our institutions exist on Indigenous land. Today, we are grateful for the space to be with you on the traditional territory of the Duwamish, Squamish, Muckleshoot, and Stillaguamish people. We acknowledge the past, present, and future Coast Salish peoples of this land and recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small act in the ongoing process of working to be in good relationship with the land and the people of the land. I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Ify. I am the MSW recruitment specialist at the Office of Admissions here at the University of Washington. Jen, who is the director, is also on the chat and will be responding to questions after our presentation today. And I'm going to pass it off to the CTAP folks to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shanti Johnson. I love to see, it looks like Vancouver is well represented. Hey, y'all. That is fantastic. I see you, Vancouver. We're excited for you to be here. I'm, again, Shanti Johnson. I'm one of the field advisors here for CTAP. My role is to work primarily with students who are at a distance from the university, which means basically outside of King County, and who are also employees of DCYF or one of the federally recognized tribes in Washington State, doing practicum and academic advising. So welcome. I'm so glad you all are here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trisha Saras. I am also a CTAP field faculty advisor. Pronouns are she, her. So excited to be in community with my DCYF folks. So great to see you all on here and to tell you a little bit more about this program. I also joined Shanti in working with mostly students who are in our extended degree programs, distance, and also DCYF employees. So happy that you're here.
And I am Sharice Hayes. I am also a field faculty advisor along with Shanti and Trisha, and I work with everyone. So I have Region 4 employees. I have a little employees who are in other regions. I also work with our students who are non-employees, who are non-employees, and our DASW students. Yeah, I think that's it, but I work with everyone. So I am so glad to have you all here today and to share our program. Give it back to Ify.
Thank you. So I'm just going to start with letting you all know that the admissions portion would kind of be a broad, we're going to share like broadly what the admission process is like. We're not going to dive deep. This is mainly targeted at child welfare employees. So we're assuming that you probably would have listened to the info session on the extended degree program that we just had. And then we also have the funding session part that they are all on our YouTube session. But if you want to connect after this session to get that, please let us know in the chat and we can also follow up. So I'm just going to dive right into it and share broadly about the admissions office and our requirements and eligibility, and then I'll pass it off to the CTAP folks to dive deep into their program. So why social work and why the University of Washington? So we already know, why we do social work. It's because it's, about social justice rooted in activism. And it's also a very holistic practice. You get to do a lot with the degree. You get to work in micro, meso, macro fields, whichever route you choose. Social work is one of the best degree out there. And of course, in terms of job growth, is expected to grow at 7% between the next 10 years, which is 2 times faster than average for most fields. And why the School of Social Work? In terms of ranking, UW is really ranked high, but forget about the ranking. They also offer a very good program. The student body is quite diverse, with about 48% of the student body being students of color. In terms of funding, which you will hear a lot about tonight, but we award about 5.8 million in student support every year. And we have amazing faculty members who are top, researchers and clinical practitioners in their diverse fields. And it's also worth to mention that the cohort size is really kept small, so you get to develop and share lifelong experience with your classmates or those that you're going to meet along the line. And I'm just going to quickly touch base on the MSW program options that we have in the School of Social Work, but this is mostly targeted at the extended degree program. Like I mentioned before, we already have the info session recorded. So if you want to ever get that, please let us know in the chat. So for the program options, we have the day program, and then we have the advanced standing. The day program is usually the 2-year full-time program, and we offer all the specializations, which are the policy, community-oriented, and the clinical track. For the advanced standing, it's the program where you have to have your bachelor's degree in social work or social welfare from an accredited university. And we have the part-time option and the full-time option. But for the EDP, which is the one that we're kind of focusing on tonight, we have the part-time option, which mostly is about 9 to 11 quarters, depending on how, fast you want it done. Includes the summer. And for this one, we only offer the clinical specialization. You can choose between weekly evening courses or hybrid, and the hybrid is a mix of both virtual and on-campus program. So there are a lot of questions to consider, and we know that people ask a lot of questions, and I'm just going to respond to very few questions that we usually see. The first one is, how much does the program cost? So the cost for the extended degree program is fee-based. So that means you're being charged per credit. As at the last admission cycle, the current rate is at $962 per credit. And this is subject to change because this is a new school year, but the cost estimate is about $80,000. And you are required to complete about 75 credits to be able to complete the degree. And we've had questions around if you're able to work, maintain like a full schedule while in the program. So while most students are able to maintain the full-time work schedule, you would have to kind of reduce your hours to part-time in the second and in the third year. And I will share more very soon. So you might also be thinking about the kind of track that might work best with your schedule. I mentioned earlier that we have the evening and the hybrid. The evening classes hold on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, mostly in the evening, 6 to 9 p.m., while the hybrid is only offered weekly on Friday and Saturday afternoons, which it kind of happens as a mix of both in-person and remote learning. And you have 4 mandatory in-person sessions each quarter. And for the EDP program, we only offer the clinical social work track. So just a little bit about the program structure. It happens, like I mentioned, in 3 years. So the first year, you're going to be looking at the generalist curriculum. And this is where, it prepares students for entry-level social work, introducing you to what social work practice is. And we have course topics that range from, like policy practice or individual, family, and macro level practice, like if you wanted to go into policy and all that. While the second and the third year, you move into the specialized curriculum, and that's when your practicum starts, which is why I mentioned earlier that you may not be able to hold the, your full schedule, like your full workload by the time you get to your second and third year. Because at the second year, you are expected to be at the practicum site about 1 to 2 days a week. But by the time you get to your third year, you have to give at least 20 hours of practicum, or 20 to 24 hours, which is about 2 to 3 days a week. And briefly about the application process, you can also use the QR code to get all the details. And I can put that website in the chat once I'm done so that you can look at the eligibility criteria. But broadly, we require 4-year bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. You also need to have a 3.0 cumulative GPA, but do not worry if your GPA is below that. We have ways that we can petition the graduate school to accommodate lower GPA if you meet all the other criteria. You also need to demonstrate English language proficiency if your first language is not English. And for the application materials, you need a $90 application fee. You need to submit your unofficial transcripts. And it's recommended that you have at least 2,000 social work and human service experience. But like I mentioned, it's a recommendation, not a requirement. But I believe that everyone on here already, they're doing some form of social work, so that counts towards your experience. And there's also a short answer critical reflection questions that you have to respond to. Then your personal statement, which is, I would say, the meat of the application, because you have to talk about yourself and the reason why you're trying to pursue the program. And then you have your resume, and we accept 3 letters of recommendation. For more information about, who would give you who would be an expected person to give you recommendations or application fee waivers, please use the QR code and it will take you to our website where you can learn more about that. Or you can put your questions in the chat afterwards. Okay, just a little bit about the cohort from last year. We had about 91% of students travel from across, Washington State, and we had about 78 students. 28 chose the weekend, and the 50 are in the evening program. I guess I'll just buttress that we have very high acceptance rate, about 70%. So don't worry if you're not feeling sure, you're probably overqualified already. So just put in the application. And of course, we're here to talk about the funding. So you will hear more about the funding, but about 90% receive funding. About 90% of the EDP students receive some form of support, funding support. And over half are first generation college students. So yeah, I'm going to pass off to Charisse to dive deep into the Child Welfare Training and Advancement Program.
Thank you. Also better known as CTAP to you all. We're a collaboration between the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, as you know, and the School of Social Work. We've been around for 32 years. So as you can imagine, we've graduated tons of employees who came to CTAP and then remain a part of the DCYF, or those who were not a part of DCYF who graduated and then became employees. Evie talked about the variety of programs that we have, but for students who are employees that are students, most of you graduate toward the EDP program because if it's your schedule and you get to use your job as your practicum. Next slide, Evie. We're known for our financial assistance, but we are so much more than that because you get a dedicated field team that includes myself, Trisha, and Shanti. We work collaboratively with your field instructors and you to build an academic program that's specific for you. We're student-centered, and you come into a cohort based on your practicum, a cohort-based practicum with your other CTAP students, and that's not only within your office and your region, but also statewide. So it's also a bonding and a collaboration and a networking opportunity for you all. And also, again, let me reiterate, I can only speak. I cannot pronounce that word for whatever reason right now, but you get Trisha and I and Shanti who not only have been employees and supervisors within DCYF, but we're also CTAP employees and Shanti and I were also CTAP students. Next slide.
All right, so academic support. So as Sharice was stating, you get a lot of support. We are a smaller program, so on any given day, we're usually around 80 to 90 students across our program total. It's a very specified learning experience where you have a base of support around you. You have a field faculty advisor, me, Shanti, and Sharice, to help guide you through your practicum planning and your learning in the field. Not only do you have that, but you have people working with you who have been in child welfare systems, in the DCYF child welfare systems, and in addition, sometimes also exited this program as graduates of CTAP. So you kind of get the best support ever when it's trying to have someone who can help guide and also relate to the experience that you're having while you're in the program, navigating a graduate program while you're also a full-time employee, while you're also all the other things that are intersecting in your life. So you do get a really highly specialized support team. You also get a field faculty, field academic advisor. an academic advisor through the graduate school who helps guide your plan of study. And we partner with everybody. So we're inside the system really as what I like to call your little minions, connecting everybody, making sure your DCYF team is on the same page as you as where you want your learning goals to go, making sure if there's anything academically that you're having a challenge or a struggle or a success with, we're all connected so that we can support you and kind of wrap around. Because we all know that navigating graduate school while being a full-time employee and all the other things is really, really hard. So we do liaise with all of the different entities in the school, with also the DCYF partnership itself. We are really, really supportive and high touch because we have a smaller program. We also get a smaller amount of students. So we have a lot more interaction with you as much as you want to have with us. We have a lot more ability to provide support and one-to-one supervision and check-ins, and just being able to really offer you that supportive place for you to come talk about when things are getting really hard, because we all have been in the child welfare system, and also just kind of managing all of the different facets of full-time employment and going through a graduate program. So we do really, support you in a big way. We also have field instructors who are inside the DCYF offices that we partner with. You are all employees, so this wouldn't apply to you, but we have student units for those who are not employees. So we have a lot of people inside DCYF and then also us on the academic side, trying to make sure we're connecting all of the dots and helping provide support and resources where needed. The learning experience itself is competency-based, which means we really are trying to create an environment where we acknowledge that you are already professionals in the field and you bring with you such a depth and wealth of knowledge and experience, and really trying to make sure the plan we make with you is your plan and meets your goals, while also meeting the standards that are set by our accreditation. To really be able to make sure that you meet all of the competencies that are required to be considered an advanced level social work practitioner by the time you get your MSW. And then another question that we get, and this is a new slide, which I kind of like, you can't really see it very clearly because it's a map and it's blurry, but you get the idea. We wanted to really give you a visual of where are you? Where are our CTAP student employees? You're kind of everywhere. And you're all throughout the state of Washington. OMAC, I don't even know where OMAC is, but I mean, everywhere. Region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, we have CTAP everywhere. And so I just kind of wanted to make sure that we had this visual of, oh, your community is quite vast and quite big and quite large and quite connected. But we are in all areas, tribal communities. We are within a lot of the DCYF offices, and we are trying to get into more and more of those DCYF offices. So this is kind of just for your visual, interpretation. This is where our CTAP students are. So you can kind of find your place on this map and see where your community of students might be, because we are a cohort-based model. And so you may know a few of students that are going to possibly be going through this program with you if you decide to move forward. And then the academic support to continue, just to give you a general idea, one of the biggest things that Charisse and Shanti and I do is we actually help really with trying to help you shape what your practicum experience is going to look like. There's 2 practicum tracks that you'll complete during your MSW program. One is the generalist practicum, and that is a 360-hour practicum, which is roughly 10 credits over 3 quarters. So you'll do all of those hours cumulatively over 3 quarters. And this is where you're really kind of figuring out where you're going to build your foundation, where you need to strengthen up some of your skills, where you need to build some of your understanding and knowledge in different areas of the foundational elements of social work, and really sit down and figure out, where are you currently working, in what position, what do you want to learn more about, where are your interests, what are you curious about, and to build on that foundation of the generalist skills. Again, I noted that this is a cohort-based model. And so you are oftentimes with another one of your colleagues that's going through this program with you. It's really nice to have those little mini communities. It's where you get a lot of your support and you do a lot of your projects together. So it's nice to be able to go through these generalist practicum and specialist practicum knowing who your cohort is. There is a lot of specialized field instruction, so you will have the ability to let us know who do you look up to, who can you learn from in your community? Is there someone right now that's a really great mentor for you that has an MSW and is 2 years post-graduated? So this is a place where you're going to actually get to really tell us what you want to learn, where you want to go, what your goals are going to look like. And we do kind of a big picture plan for our students. We don't just talk about the generalists, we talk about the specialists, and that's where you continue to deepen that knowledge base and those skills. So you'll get a field instructor for your practicum. Your generalist practicum starts at the end of your first year and it goes for 3 quarters and then right straight into your specialist, which is 680 hours and 17 credits over 3 quarters. There's seminars, there's a lot of just opportunities to learn in a lot of your different classes, a lot of different knowledge, theories, skills, things that you're going to want to integrate into your practice. The big piece of practicum is integration of that theory into your practice as a social worker. This is the main goal of your practicum, is to take all of the knowledge and the theories and the frameworks and all of the things that you don't know how to actually name that you actually are doing right now and practice some of it, and really being able to integrate that into your practice as a professional and advanced level social work practitioner in this field. So again, your generalist is your first foundational practicum. We meet with your team, we get everybody on board, we ask what your goals are, we do planning, we really acknowledge what you bring. But this isn't like a cookie cutter design. It's something that you get to really be in the driver's seat and work with us to plan what you want that to look like. Your employees, so you get to use your job if you choose, and the hours at work if you choose for practicum if you're already in a CTAP approved position. And usually those are case carrying positions or positions under the child welfare operations umbrella. And we can talk more about that later. But really, specialist and generalist practicum is that place to integrate theory and practice.
Great, thank you. So there's a couple comments in the chat I want to just highlight real quick that tie into that practicum and post-employment after you graduate. So CTAP is for employees currently working in child welfare and want to continue to work in child welfare. You can do your practicum and all of your service repayment in your current position in child welfare. It's also available for people who work at a federally recognized tribe in Washington State during school and after graduation. So even though it's a federally recognized tribe, it has to be in Washington State. And if you currently work at one of the child welfare programs in one of the tribes, you will have to do your first practicum at DCYF because it's a grant process through DCYF. But then your specialist practicum can be at your current position at your tribe. Now, sometimes folks want to transition to a different place or a different role during the program. Feel free to do that because we have it built in that we support you in figuring out how to include that as your practicum. You'll want to check with us before you do any of that movement though, because what Tricia said is that the jobs have to be CTAP approved. And so what that means is that DCYF has to say that, yes, this meets the CTAP eligibility criteria. And so while you're doing that kind of thinking about where you're going as you learn new things and say, oh yeah, I'd like to do something different, you want to be thinking about where am I moving and does that meet the CTAP requirements? And also for the tribes, if you decide, you want to move over to DCYF, you're able to do that. But once you start at DCYF, if you're an employee there, you cannot leave the department. So you cannot leave the department and go to work for a federally recognized tribe. That is not something that we're able to do. So when we have you applying to the school Once you have submitted your application and our deadline closes, CTAP is going to get information about who has applied, and you're going to start getting information from us about it's time to apply to CTAP. And so what we're trying to help you do is that if you're coming to school and you need funding in order to say yes, we want to make sure that you have information about, are you admitted to CTAP in time to make that attestation to the university that, yes, I'm coming and I have my funding to do that. So you're going to have to go through an application process. So what we will have is some information sessions that tell you more specifically, we get more in the weeds into the details so that you are highly informed about what you're signing up for. And we'll tell you more about CTAP, the process, and then we're going to have you go through the application process. And the application process is very much like your MSW process. It's going to have the application form. You're going to upload your resume. We need to see that, like, hello, welcome to the UW. You made it. You got in. We're so excited to have you here. We need that letter too for CTAP so we can verify that you are actually welcome here to be a student. You made it through. You're going to have to do some references. Those references need to be speaking to your capacity and willingness to be a child welfare worker or employee. So whereas the schools one is like, why should you be a social worker? Why should they let you into the UW? This one for CTAP is specific to child welfare. So if you're at a tribe or if you're at DCYF, you want to make sure that your references are being specific. There's going to be 2 essays, and then we always do a background check and make sure it's a criminal history check, and it's depending on if you're out of state, if you're in state, how long. There's different processes, and all of you folks in child welfare currently know about the criminal history check stuff. There'll be a FamLink review, and then there'll be some employment eligibility. Unfortunately, DCYF, DCYF implies folks who are DACA eligible. CTAP, we are not able to accept students into the program who are DACA eligible. And I've had that question a few times over the last few years because we're federally reimbursed program. So if there's any questions about that, because I think there is some ambiguity, it's always a good bet to go through DCYF to find out what they're saying, and then have them let us know as well if that's a possibility. But pretty much as a matter of form, we haven't been able to accept DACA recipient students. So next slide, please. All right, so this is the admissions timeline for CTAP. You're gonna apply, like I said, you're gonna get that deadline in. It's the 15th. There is the priority deadline's the 15th of January. February 15th is the extended deadline. Don't wait. Big secret, don't wait. Get it in. And then we're going to gather more information and we're going to share with you about CTAP. We're going to learn who you are. All of you on this message, you'll get a message from one of us saying, hey, we remember seeing your name. We're really excited for you to apply to CTAP. And then once we go through the interview process, that's the other piece of it. You're going to submit your application. We're going to sign you up for an interview. You're going to do a big, scary interview with a bunch of CTAP people. It's really not scary. You're going to talk about why you want to be in CTAP, what your goals are for CTAP. And then we will notify you when you're accepted into CTAP. And that should be before you have to attest to the university that you're going to accept to be a student here. And then you're a CTAP student, and then all the fun really begins after that, because we're a great group of field faculty. We are super fun. I think we are. And we really, really enjoy working with students. And it's really something that it brightens our day to engage with you, even tough stuff, even when we're supporting you to do other things like, I just met with a student today and she was like, Shanti, you said you were going to drag me across that stage in graduation when I thought I couldn't make it. And I was like, yes, and I totally will do it too. So let's, keep going, right? Because we really want you to be successful when you get here. And so we really put in the effort to support you and have a good time doing it as well. So now is the opportunity for you guys to ask some questions. If you're comfortable, because it is being recorded, you can come on screen and ask some questions. I can also look in the chat to see some of the ones that are in the chat. So we had a question here about what is a CTAP approved position. Trisha, do you want to take that one?
Yes. So our CTAP approved positions are all of our positions that are housed under the child welfare operations umbrella under Natalie Green. Most of these positions are going to be case carrying positions. Our most common positions that students come in as are SSS 1, 2, 3, CPS, CFWS, FAR, FBS, FRS. Those are some of our main groups of students that come through our CTAP MSW program. There are a lot of other positions in adoptions, EFC, FTDM, in the ICWA units, CHET, permanency positions, QRS, and SHPIC. But this is something I want to make sure you all hear. It's our ethical commitment and duty as social workers to make sure you understand before anything happens with your application, before you make this decision, that we make sure we let you know if you're not in a CTAP approved position, because that's a huge decision. It's a huge financial commitment that you're making. And also you may have to change positions if you're not in a position to be able to go through this program. And that's something that you really need to be aware of before you go through this process, is that you are in a CTAP approved position, because that's a major decision and we want to support you in that. Right now, CTAP and DCYF are going through their position qualifications, recommendations, and requirements. We are getting more and more information every day, but for right now, this is the most current information that we have, is that these case carrying positions are the ones where they realize and recognize they need the most retention and advancement in our ability to have this lane for our employees to be able to get their MSW. And so it's a issue that we're kind of working through right now, because we don't have an active full list of each position. We have to, especially with all the new positions that are coming through, we have to get special consideration for, if you're in a position we've never heard of, we have to send it up the chain and we have to ask if that's approved, and that's how it gets added to the list. And so with all the new positions that have come through, with all the new policies coming down, there's just been a lot of new positions that have gotten approved. So for right now, all I can say is that it needs to be under our child welfare operations umbrella, Natalie Green, and it needs to be, for the most part, a case carrying position, otherwise in one of these other areas. And we will be able to have more in-depth conversation with you about that if you're in a position where you're like, oh, I don't know. And we are there to support you and help you find out. Okay?
All right, thank you. So there is, so also you guys, you can use the Q&A function in the chat, or in the Q&A function, because that will help us also to keep track as we're kind of skimming the chat here to see. Also, if you want to come off mute, just raise your hand and we can let you in to ask your question live. A couple questions. Let's see, general timeline, CTAP applications open. So when the timeline, so when your application deadline for the MSW program is ended, so the first deadline is January 15th, then we will start messaging those students who have applied to the program. You don't have to be admitted yet, but we will start doing those outreach. You'll get some sort of email, some sort of communication. Those of you who are here will probably get some sort of communication from one of us, because we were actually here with you to follow up. So we will do some outreach to let you know when the information sessions are, when the application process will be open, and when the interview process will start. So we will let you know along the way. If you get to, let's just say February, mid-February, and you haven't heard from CTAP, you want to reach out. Do not wait, because we do admissions once per year. And if you miss it, you'll have to wait a year in order to be eligible to apply again. So look for us if we don't catch you, but we really try to make a concerted effort to make sure that we've reached out to people that we've had some sort of communication with. And so that's when it opens, and then it should close. You should know that you're in CTAP before or right near when you have to attest that you are coming. The other thing I saw in the chat too was, so the regular, I call them regular students, the rest of everybody else that's not CTAP, and that actually is a thing. Is it CTAP or not? Those students are negotiating between work and then their practicum because they're doing a placement, usually away from their job. Our program allows employees to do their same position, their same job as their practicum, which means you're not having to negotiate hours. Now, if you really want to do something different for your learning, for your practicum, and you want to stay in your current position, then you can do a project. Then we would talk about like, how are you going to, separate hours out for practicum and for work, and what does that look like? But for the most part, we've tried to really work to eliminate that hardship for our employees, that you're not having to negotiate your time. You're really just having to do the learning piece of it. All right, what other questions do we have? Let's see. Yes, online option for CTAP. So this is a thing. It is hopeful, emphasize hopeful for 2026. We're working on it. It hasn't, we don't have a like, yes, it's launching and it's ready to go. So I say we're hopeful, we're highly hopeful. And with that, if your goals are in line with getting that MSW sooner rather than later, I wouldn't wait. Don't wait, just do it. And if coming up here 4 times a quarter, if you're far away, is really a barrier, then let's talk about it and see if there's some ways that we can support you, because we have had a lot of students who coming from Vancouver, I gave y'all a shout out. We got people coming from Wenatchee. We've got people, y'all saw the map. We got people coming from everywhere. And so you're not going to be the only one on the road coming from where you're coming from. And so sometimes we can help students connect with each other before school starts, to start set up that carpool, to set up the overnight stay if you want to stay or need to stay overnight, so that you guys are building that network like Cherise mentioned at the beginning, right? Really being able to support each other as a cohort. So let's talk about it if you want to wait, because it is highly hopeful, but we don't have it solidified yet. Let's see. How long is it? Oh, you got that, Trisha. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So could you switch to online when it happens? No. So hard stop. That's a no. So if you're in a program, you're in a program. Sometimes we have students switch from the weekend program to the evening program, or from the hybrid program to the evening program, or vice versa. Because they start at the same time and the curriculum follows the same schedule, absolutely that can happen. But this online program, if you are in it, if you start in 2025, when the online program starts, they'll be starting where you started in 2025. That's where they'll start in 2026. So you really have to start, and it'll progress from there. So if it is something where you really want to wait, then let's talk about that to see if that's really the best option for you. And then the hybrid program, you commute 4 times per quarter. Those are outlined well in advance. So right now we know what winter is going to look like already. Winter quarter that starts January 6th. We already know what the dates of class are for those weekends. And so, and then depending, sometimes you may not have to commute depending on the class. Jen, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks so much. I see that there's lots of questions about this, so I just want to echo kind of what you're saying. So first and foremost, what we have currently is the hybrid option, and so what they're really looking at is having a weekly course that is a mix of both remote and in-person sessions. Those weekly courses would be scheduled to happen most likely, and this is where it's hard because it's a ways out, so we don't know quite yet. But our plan is to have those courses be offered on Fridays and Saturdays. Hopefully later, like later in the day or in the afternoons, just to make it a little bit easier for folks who are working. And then the idea would be that mainly they would be either virtual or asynchronous weekly, and that there would be at least 4 sessions, so 4 mandatory on-campus sessions on those. And those dates would be set in advance, as Shanti said. And so the other thing that is kind of being discussed, we don't have full details, but we hope to by spring when we will launch all of our communications and materials about this. But the hope is that for the online program in the fall of 2026, it would be fully online. So we would likely just move away from having a hybrid at all and just have fully online. That's all there is. So we're getting there, as folks have mentioned. It's been a trek, and we are hoping to have more information to share with folks. So yeah, I think that was what I wanted just to add. And there is a tiny bit more detail on the website if you look at format and things like that. But also we will be, sharing additional information as the school year gets closer. I just want to make sure there seemed to be a couple of questions just about like the need to switch roles, or, maybe we could just reiterate that, because I think that there's a few questions that sort of circled that same idea.
Yeah, no problem. So you do not need to switch roles if you are in a position currently that allows you to be in practicum and is a CTAP approved position. And so you don't have to do any moving unless you want to. Some students want to, and some students are like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to stay right where I'm at. It's really your choice. And what I mean by meets practicum, so there are the competencies like Trisha talked about. It's competency-based education, which means there are certain markers. And so you have to be engaging with children, youth, families, or the organization. You have to be doing assessments, evaluations, interventions, right? Those are the kind of the pillars for social work, right? And so if your position is allowing you to do those things, then we can say, yeah, absolutely, you don't have to change. If you have a question about your role or your position, you can reach out to us. I put my email in the chat. You can, or using the QR code information as well. And we can talk with you about what it would look like for your position. We do not have a list of CTAP approved positions. It's really based upon what the department allows for those positions. And so we don't have like a list, but like Trisha said, if you're in a case carrying position, or one of the case carrying support positions, you're more than likely going to be a CTAP approved in a CTAP approved position, or you're doing work that is directly related to assessing the child's safety and well-being, right? And so there are a lot of those kind of positions that maybe aren't case carrying, but you do kind of have a caseload because you're responsible for folks. So some of the SHPC, some, not all, but some of the SHPC positions are also approved positions because of the kind of work that they do. And that's where, once we get out of the direct case carrying, you want to talk to us about what those positions are, so that we can help you ensure that you're in a position that will qualify. So no, you do not have to change positions. You can work full-time while you're in the program if you are currently a DCYF employee or a tribal employee in child welfare. You can just keep working, keep going. We really tried hard to advocate for that. That's what you guys are able to do.
So there was a question about tuition and the payback period. Great question, by the way. So CTAP will cover all of your in-state tuition and fees. And for the time that you are in school and you are receiving tuition through CTAP, once you graduate, you then enter into the payback period. And that means that you are responsible at that point for staying in employment with DCYF for the same amount of time that you received tuition for your MSW program. For all of our employees, they all normally about 90%, if not 95%, will do the 9-quarter plan of study. And so that is roughly 3 months for every quarter. So it's about 2.5 years, 27 months. But there is after you graduate, you can get an exact payoff date, but it's going to be the equal amount of time that you are in school. You are then committing to employment with DCYF in a CTAP approved position for that equal amount of time.
Great. There's another question in the Q&A. Do y'all want to take that one live?
Yeah, I'll take it live. So how long does it typically take to complete the entire program? If you've already worked for the department for a certain number of years, does that minimize any requirements at all? So one of the other things that we've been able to do through CTAP is to really streamline the academic quarter process for our employees. So what that means is a typical extended degree program is 11 quarters. So that's how we talk at the school, right? DCYF has all of our lingo, right? So does the school. So we say 9 quarters or 11 quarters is the typical plan for most students. Our employees, as long as you are doing your current job as your practicum and you take courses on a schedule, you will complete in 9 quarters. So what that means is you're 2 quarters earlier than the other students in your same cohort that are not in CTAP, which equates to 6 months early. So instead of 3 years, you're graduating in 2.5 years. And so that's what we've been able to work out. It's pretty standard for our employees now. Most of them graduate on that 9-quarter schedule. And we really support you to ensure that if that's your goal, we are working towards that. Sometimes students are not able to do that. And so I have a couple students who are not graduating in fall right now, which is where folks would graduate. They're going to graduate in winter. And so they'll be done in 10 quarters instead of the 9. So we really work with you. And so it does reduce your amount of workload, but there are a number of factors or your time, but there are a number of factors that go into that. But that's our role, is to really support you in meeting your goal and supporting you. And like I said earlier, if you need me to come to your house and drag you across that graduation stage, I am all here for it to support you because you're doing the work already and we need you to stay doing the work. And to enhance your work through this academic opportunity. And we really want you to complete the program and to be able to take those skills on further. And so, you know, it is a joke that I would do that, but that's really how I feel about it, right? I really want you to get it and get it done. And so we're all have that same sentiment of really wanting to support you to do it. So yeah, you can be done 6 months early. That's something that only our school offers. So I will tout that. Eastern doesn't offer that. UW-Tacoma doesn't offer that. That's what we offer at Seattle, is to be able to get you out in 2.5 rather than 3 years.
I think there's one question that hasn't been responded to. Are you able to move, or have you already? Are you able to move to other roles while in the program, like promote lateral move if it's an approved position?
Yes, absolutely. We've had a lot of students move. The typical move is from CPS to CFWS or CFWS to CPS, you know, that kind of movement. But we've also had students move into SHPC positions. We've had students move into supervisory positions. We've had students move into AA positions. You know, so there is the opportunity for movement. It's really just a matter of making sure that where you are wanting to move, whether it's lateral or whether it is a promotion. And some people take a voluntary demotion also. So just know that that's an option as well. That we just support you in figuring out, is that move CTAP, something that CTAP can support through, right, the funding requirement and DCYF's requirement that you be in a child welfare approved position. So yeah, we support all of that.
Great. And there's one here about, does CTAP have a process for licensing LCSW or LCSWA?
Yeah, no, we don't. However, I am an LICSW. I got licensed while I was at the department, and then a little bit I left the department and finished it up. So you can get licensed while you're at the department, and the department is working on an opportunity for people to get their supervision hours during that time. So the answer is yes. And then there's multiple pathways for how you can do that at the department. So absolutely, the job counts towards that clinical requirement for a license.
I think we responded to all of the questions. We'll probably give about 1 or 2 minutes for other questions to come in, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Evie, if you want to stop the recording, that way if folks feel more comfortable, you can feel free to come off of, turn your camera on, say hello, come off mute.